I'm going to teach you about layered landscaping, and that is what I do to give a little bit of year-round interest, year-round color, and to mask any plants that may go dormant during the colder seasons. In this chapter, I'm going to show you how to pick a space in your own backyard, how to choose plants for it, and how to create a layered landscape bed. Landscape beds can be used for so many reasons. You can use them to create added privacy, to emphasize a certain area, or just to give you something beautiful to look at. So a couple things to keep in mind when you're thinking about where to put a landscape bed. For the most part, landscaping tends to get relegated to curb appeal, which I think is very important, trust me. But I also think that there's other ways that you can bring more interest to your space and more interest to your home by finding other places to put it. The back of the home, the front of the home is a good anchor point for landscape. Tends to always be a place that could use some plants, but maybe there's a spot in the middle of your yard that could really use like a little moment of year-round color. Let's talk about studying the environment. If the place that you choose to have a landscape bed is in full shade, make sure that you're choosing plants that can survive there. If you're in full sun, definitely want those hardy plants that can withstand some of that heat. Always, your number one consideration needs to be your hardiness zone. So make sure you figure out what that is and that you're buying the plants that will thrive there. I always suggest finding a really good garden center with a lot of experts that you can go and just pick their brain and that they can lead you in the right direction when it comes to choosing plants. I'm about to give you my golden rule. It's my formula of 3. You want to effortlessly draw your eye from eye level all the way down to the ground. So when you're choosing plants for your landscape bed, pick 3 different types. Choose something that's got a little bit of whimsy and movement to go behind. Normally you're going to be spending most of your time in your yard when the weather's more warm. So having something that like kind of dances a little bit and gives you that little bit of like life to your landscape bed is what you want to place in back. Right below that, you've got a really good, hardy, structured evergreen piece. You know, this is what you can kind of anchor your landscape behind, and it also cover whatever you've got planted behind should that plant go dormant. Below that, you're going to choose a ground cover. A ground cover is the often forgotten area. It makes your landscape feel more complete, like you've thought about every single step. So we have the perfect opportunity to put a landscape bed in here and really actually help update the landscape as a whole. Always, before we get started, take a minute to sort of imagine your space. Helps me to get things down on paper a little bit. There's a grass called pink muley grass that gets really nice and tall, and it gets these pink, like feathery type of plumes on it when it is in bloom. Our evergreen kind of spreading shrubs will go here, and we're gonna put in Distillium cinnamon girl. It's gonna be lower than the pink muley grass when the pink muley grass is in full bloom. And then when the ornamental grass is cut back or it goes dormant, this will be covering all of that. And then below that, we're also gonna add a bed of Vinca minor. Vinca is kind of a spreading ground cover that gets a really like cute purple bloom on it in the spring and summer. I believe that there is a much stronger impact when you choose fewer species of plants and plant them in mass. In this case, we've chosen a total of 3. So right there, when everything is in season, you've got 3 layers of interest. When the pink muley grass has died down, you still have 2 layers of interest that will give some depth, dimension, and coverage to your home. Let's get started. Number one thing, make sure that we amend our soil. We're not gonna spend money on plants and then put them in an environment that they can't thrive in. So here specifically, we're going to amend with some mushroom compost and then some fertilizer. The ground is fairly soft, so I should be able to do all of this with my shovel. If you have super hard compacted ground, you might consider renting a tiller to till this part up and then get your amendments put in. Let's do it. It's always a good idea, once you've amended your soil, to go ahead and place your plants and make sure that you've got the proper spacing. Every time you buy a plant, there should be a little tag on it that gives you what the mature growth spread is, whether it be between 2 to 4 feet, 3 to 6 feet, etc. Those numbers are based on total best case scenario. If something says that it's got a 2 to 4 foot mature spread, I like to plant them about 2 feet apart because I like them to feel really full. Okay, so now we have placed our evergreen layer of the Distillium Cinnamon Girl. One of my favorite plants in the whole world is a little ollie, which is like a little olive tree, but it's a shrub. What I love about the Distillium, since little ollies don't grow here in our zone, the Distillium has a similar leaf shape to that, and that's part of why I'm obsessed with it. This is a 3-gallon pot, and these have a max growth rate of 2 to 4 feet in width. We're already at about the 2 foot point. So while it will get thicker and a little bit taller, I think that this is a good example of the width that we're looking at. So here, I planted 10 of the pink muley grass, 10 of the Distillium Cinnamon Girl, and just staggered them a little bit. Now we are placing the ground cover. I chose Vinca minor for this area because it already exists in the landscape, and so I thought we'd go ahead and just continue on the cohesion. It still works with the palette that we've picked here, but also lends itself to what is already existing in this space. Now, Vinca is a spreading ground cover. It's evergreen, and in the spring and summer it gets a really adorable dainty purple bloom on it, so I think it's pretty cute too, and it'll have that extra color. Even when the pink muley grass is popping, there'll still be some extra color down below as well. For here, because these are 4-inch little pots, I'm just gonna go ahead and use my little garden trowel that I bent on accident, but it still works. So the reason I'm doing that is because we properly amended this soil. It's easy to move around. I don't need to come in here with the big shovel and move a lot of the dirt. Kind of squeeze and place and get that all packed in. So after we get the ground cover in brand new plants, they're in a brand new home, let's give them a healthy drink. After we give them a healthy drink, we'll go ahead and put the pine straw mulch down. It's always important to put some sort of top dressing. This acts as a moisture barrier, kind of keeps the water where it needs to be around the roots of the plant, but it also really finishes the bed. So instead of it looking like exposed dirt, now it looks like this is a finished touch. Every part has been thought of, and it's also gonna grow in really nicely. So I'm pretty stoked. I'm happy with it. So if you chose a more manicured palette, then you probably will have to spend more time in your yard making sure that it's staying trimmed. But if you kind of went with a more free form, then great. Just keep an eye on it. Like, you'll be able to tell if a plant's getting a little bit sad or if you need to do a little bit of cutting back on something. But these in particular, they're pretty bulletproof, especially for the area. We picked the right plants for the right place. And I'm really happy with how it's gonna look, especially when the muley grass blooms. So with these tips that we learned today, you can now Select a space in your own yard to give it an upgrade to. You know how to pick plants for it, and you know how to layer them so that you've got some year-round interest. What we started with was a completely blank slate. Now we've given the entire house a little upgrade back here, and the dining area in general just a little bit more of a cozy feel. The possibilities in a space like this are endless, and they are for you as well. I know that we could probably redo this in a million different ways, and I'd still be happy with it. So whatever you choose, go forward in confidence, get planty, and I will see you next time.